Hello, good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? It's us. We're back. It's Sunday, and it's the chat, our weekly little
Mhm,
hangout and
mhm.
talking some nerdy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
I'm here with
yeah.
Rasa. Hello, how are you?
Coolio. Yeah.
Awesome.
Next week, following we're chatting, which is a good track already. I am
I know, two
already.
weeks in a row.
Yeah, this is very
Unbelievable.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's very bizarre.
Next week is next Saturday is my birthday, so interesting.
Nice.
But I'm
So
not
next
doing
Sunday you'll
anything.
be too hungover?
No, I don't do birthdays anymore. To be honest, I
Oh,
don't.
you don't? Yeah, yeah.
I
Not even, not
mean,
even with the family, like not even with your husband and wonderful son. You don't do like a little three, just a
I
little
don't
little
know.
thing.
Maybe we'll do something, but I don't plan it.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Miss
So,
So. How are you?
mm, so, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not really fussed, to be honest. Never. I mean, to, not even planning. I don't
Yeah,
really.
right.
This January. I mean, it's not really something. Not the most fantastic weather. Let's say this way to have a
Yeah,
birthday,
right.
and especially kind of this time now when you have a child. It's a very different feeling when it comes to your birthdays. Before I used to go
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, maybe we go out to have a dinner and drink and blah blah blah. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah. Now it's like, yeah, it's another day, really, to be honest. You just
Yeah, right. Yeah.
take that age thingy, like, oh, another
Yeah.
one. Okay. Thank you very
Yeah, no,
much.
I mean
Enough.
it's another day for me too, but I still like
Yeah.
to do something with the family, have a little something. Yeah, we got a cold snap going on for us as well too. The snow has come back with a vengeance in Winnipeg here. It's now what it should be like in January. It's now full on.
Also, you like how high? Like a lot of
Um
stuff going on, or
I don't know. I mean, enough to like have to do pretty damn good shoveling to get us out of the house kind of thing,
uh,
because it was kind of drifting up to the drifts were maybe up to my shins, almost to my knees one morning. But again, that's
mhm,
the drifts. So that's
yeah.
not like the base layer. That's it just kind of tunneling in. And so
Mm,
yeah, it was a bit of a dig out one morning. So it's good though. I'm glad that we're now as we should be. It's weird when it's warm.
yeah.
Hello, Mr. Lopez.
Cheers to you
Donald
guys. Still
Rex.
on. Hello.
Good afternoon, everybody.
A bit of a marula still left over from Christmas, which this is how much I
Oh,
drink these days.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Like not much at all.
Yeah, no,
Hmm.
I've still got chartreuse left from Christmas too. Like we'll see how long it lasts, but that's my Christmas drink.
Hmm.
And it's a pretty small bottle and it ends up lasting quite a while.
It's very sweet, and I've been reducing the amount of sugar I consume.
Oh, that's good.
Well, at least I'm trying to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'd be easy,
And
man. It's like fucking crack.
oh, hello, howdy, howdy. Good to for you
Dan,
to
how
have.
you doing?
Hello, Dan.
Okay.
Cool. What I was saying? Oh yeah, sugar wise. So yeah, so this drink becomes like it's like I put ice cube. I wait for a while, so ice cube just kind of does this thing, cool down the
Yeah,
drink. Plus, it makes it dilutes a little bit the sweetness. I
yeah,
don't do Baileys anymore. It's impossible for me. Amarula is that South African companies that tree which they have which is completely different flavor to it in a way. I mean, it's more fruity basically. It's not
yeah,
as a coffee liqueur in England or in this part of the world people like a lot before Christmas. Like it's funny how much people buy, like the girls especially. Like
yeah.
oh, there's like bottle after bottle. Some girls like there was this. I think there was a mother and a daughter, and they had about 6 bottles Baileys, 5 bottles of gin, 7 bottles of vodka, and I think
Yeesh.
something else. And I was like, whoa, girls gonna be having a party. And I was saying to
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
oh, somebody's having a party. Oh, this is just for whole month of December. I was like, oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
Are you sure about
Holy
that?
crap.
So that was
That's
like,
intense.
a bill and a half because drinks
Yeah,
aren't cheap either, like these
yeah,
days.
right.
And what's cheap these days, to be honest? Finding a deal is another one. Although the Black Friday boom thing is always kind of pans out quite nicely. To be honest,
Yeah.
even here now we got this across the ponds fever of Black Friday. I guess companies will learn that people go absolutely mad for a deal. So anyway, so yeah, some people like they get discounted alcohol, so woof, then that everything just goes clears up, like especially the favorite drinks, like people whoever likes that stuff. So
Yeah, right.
yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
you've been watching Echo.
Yeah,
You
we watched the first 3 episodes.
uh-huh.
Did you watch any of it?
I don't know if I've watched three. Oh, is it the last one I watched when Kingpin kind of saw her again? Is that the third episode then? Is that how?
Um, I think so. Yes, I think so.
So
Hello,
I
Mr. Orbital.
by oh children. Yeah,
It's
well, you
drifting down
guys
your way.
across the pond is like proper. Like my country had like -20 at nighttime
Yep.
in Lithuania. In UK, was forecasting this the biggest freeze, but more in the north or where I am in the south. We're gonna have -5, which is quite a lot in this area at
Hmm.
nighttime. And because it's an island, even my mom says it's a different freeze. It feels
Right.
like because there's so much moisture in England that like
Yeah.
when it drops to minus, it becomes like extra. So basically, for example, they say, "Oh, it's +5 today," but it feels like -1. It's like, excuse me, how can you feel it's
Yeah.
+5, but it feels like minus? But honestly, it's like I know it's not the same minuses I'm talking about here comparing to you guys across the pond, but
Yeah.
honestly, it feels like proper freezing if you're not used to it anymore. I guess that's what I'm
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
saying. The Deutsche
Um.
Anlage, part of the master plan. Yeah.
Yeah, the wind chill is the thing for us too. The over the
Oh.
Christmas holiday, when I growing up, we had this weather channel on our TV. It
Uh-huh.
had kind of like these green bars at the top and then blue and red screen. It was very lo-fi. It always played like really nice kind of smooth jazz and easy listening music and stuff. So I remember that from my childhood. So we found somebody on YouTube who's recreated that. And it's the Winnipeg Weather Channel, just as I remember it. So over Christmas,
Oh
that's
wow.
all we had going in the background is this kind of easy listening music as the Weather Channel was up. Like it was kind of fucking amazing, because it's such a staple of my childhood, that
Mm.
channel being on all the time. Back in the days when we had like 10 channels or 7 channels or 6 channels or whatever it was, right? So,
Mm.
I mean,
Oh
the
yeah.
dial went to 13, but there wasn't that many channels on the actual TV. Most
Mm-hmm.
of those were static. So yeah.
I remember the telly we had was like you had to turn the dial and it's clicking the channels. So if you
Yeah,
want to
right.
go back, you have to start from the beginning and click
Yeah,
again. It's
right.
like, oh yeah, I
Right.
fucking missed it. So I have to
All the way
click.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, and you click back again. It's like
Yeah.
dark ages, dude. If you tell that to kids these days, I was like, what you doing? Yeah, you have to go actually to a telly to change the bloody channel. You you
Right.
morons. You don't
Right.
realize
Right.
how basic were we just like couple of years, really, couple of decades ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the sound of your voice, Echo is a bit boring to you, I presume.
Echo is shit. It's horrible, dude. It's horrible. The only saving grace that it has is there's so many reservation dogs actors in it, which is fucking amazing.
I know. I was
Like
thinking
Big
exactly
is
the
in it,
same thing.
and
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of people. So, and as soon as she's like looking for her friend Bonnie, I'm like, I bet you that's the actress that played Maya
Yeah, I
Deren
knew
from.
straight away
I
who
bet
it
you it
was.
is like that long shot. It's like that's totally got to be her. So that's
Yeah.
that's very cool. And I do
Uh,
feel like they're trying to capture some of that energy and they just
mm-hmm.
can't because they don't know what they're doing. But I find it so like the first episode was fun. Second
Mm-hmm.
episode was dropped a little, and the third episode was just excruciating. I just couldn't.
Oh.
We stopped after that because we were gonna binge it because it's only 5 episodes or something,
Oh,
and we
is
were
it
gonna
all
binge it
out?
all.
All
So
the
we didn't. Or that's all that's out now anyway. Like right
Oh,
now,
okay.
there's only like 5 episodes out. I don't know if there's any more, but honestly, I thought it sucked. Yeah, not really my thing.
There's a couple of things I really like what they're trying to do. I'm not sure if it's directional wise or the story wise they approaching it, but
Yeah,
I like that it's the main characters who doesn't sign languages is I think it's intriguing part of the learning curve we don't get
yeah.
taught, and I think that's kind of a miss. My dad actually. We were speaking about my dad prior we started live, but my dad actually understands sign language,
Mm,
not to a full extent, but he's able to communicate, which is actually fantastic. And I always found it kind of like extra power you gain, like by having that ability to actually communicate with everybody.
Yep.
But I like that level, and I really like the actress they chose
Yep.
for the part of Echo. I
Yeah,
think
she is good for sure. Yeah.
she has, but I think that the storytelling. I know that they're changing the way they're approaching the shows these days. I really
They
like the
sure are.
moment when Daredevil appeared, and that interaction between the fight interaction between two of them felt really good. Like, oh,
Yep.
Daredevil is back, kind of thing. But then that's not. It's just the show seems to be quite choppy, and
Super
that
choppy.
and they don't know how to expose that Amazonia, that part of her heritage, or not Amazonia, and that's wrong way with me to just saying that, but the natives who came first on the land,
Yeah.
they are really intriguing part of a storyline, but the way they're
Totally. That
exposing that
lineage.
story, it
Yeah.
seems to be um, not cohesive enough for you to actually understand or care. I mean, I really like that part, and I want more of that rather than those fighting scenes with Kingpin and all of that. And all
Mhm.
of them, the actors they used, like because of the show we were talking more earlier, I absolutely love because. And I was saying to
Mhm.
my husband, what will happen? Is the new generation of them coming in? Because all the actors you see is the same actors. If Native America, there you go. You see the same faces doing
Same
Native
actress. Well, I mean,
Americans.
her uncle, like, or her grandpa or whatever.
Yeah,
Sorry, her
yeah,
grandpa. Like,
yeah,
that's a famous
yeah,
indigenous actor that is in everything. When there's an
yeah,
indigenous role, it's
yeah,
gonna be him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it is nice to see another generation of
Hmm.
actors and actresses coming up. Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, the storytelling is super choppy. All three episodes feel like they're flashbacks because of the way they
Yeah.
just do these little segments. And then there's these segments where it looks like a really bad commercial, like with this kind of like
Mm.
looking at something and almost posing and like almost looking at the camera and like, we found that, it is so staged. And it just,
Yeah.
that third episode, just like when I myself personally start nitpicking at things, I know that I'm out of touch with the show. Like I know that
Yeah.
I if I don't have that suspension of disbelief, I'm
Yeah.
done as like a just me myself. And there was so many moments where it's like he has the gun to the person's head, and
Hmm.
then they're still fighting, and it just was so disjointed and like
Mm.
just so sloppy, and it just felt really lazy. It felt really lazy, like we don't even really gonna try that much because whatever, you guys are gonna watch it anyway, is what it felt like. It just
Hmm.
felt lazy writing, lazy directing,
Hmm.
lazy editing. The whole thing just felt a little lazy and trying to kind of cash in. I really
Yeah.
personally felt they were really trying to cash in on that reservation dogs. I really
Yeah.
felt that in a few scenes where they set it up like you would see in that show, and it just falls flat because there's no heart behind it, right? So
Yeah. There's not. I think directional points, or maybe editorial part is a bit, because I don't know what they chopped it off. We don't know that. I'm really
yeah,
looking forward to see the Kingpin part. I mean, he was there like seconds because I like
yep,
the actor. I mean, I love the
yep,
actor, to be honest. I think he has like the highest chops out of them all, to be honest, to be in that TV
yeah.
show. But the directional part of it, or they are too slow about it, which is kind of like the merit what they used to be doing it so far with all the shows. And if you don't care enough of the character, because for me, Echo is a new character, isn't it? It's fleshed out just recently in the Marvel
No
comic books,
idea.
because I've
I think
never
so.
I've never heard of her before prior when I saw like Daredevil and the Echo series Marvel came out with, and I was like, who is Echo, to be honest? And
Mhm.
then I don't really care much about Daredevil part. I absolutely care about, so I know the Daredevil and Kingpin part, I know him as well, so that much, but she's the main frame. So, and then as I say, the storytelling is so uncohesive that it doesn't make sense for you to actually give a 2 cents about anything what's happening around it. So I don't know if I want to go finish it. Probably I will, because I'm just still curious about that Native
Yeah,
America part of the storyline and see what her power so far. We found her powers for a bit,
yeah,
and that's intriguing enough. And then I like that background where those females are really strong, and how they like showing when they were winning, how they show those powers coming through to them. So I like that, but oh, Echo wasn't too popular with the comic book. But there you go.
mm.
Interestingly enough, so as I
Yeah.
say, she's very
It
new
feels like it could
character.
it could be something, but they just haven't really put as much effort into it, because she is intriguing. There's parts of it that I do like, you know what I mean? Like I loved seeing the
Mhm.
Daredevil stuff. I thought was great. The other thing
And
that I thought was funny was Kingpin always having that woman that's doing the sign language. It's like, what, does
yeah.
she just stand there 24/7? And it's like, wouldn't you pick up a few things after a certain amount of time? Or wouldn't you figure? I just thought that was comical, like her always there in the background translating for her. I thought
Mm.
was just kind of funny, like unintentionally funny,
I
which
think
again pulled me out of the show.
I think the reason why they have that person like 24/7 you feel like having, I think is the power a Kingpin actually has upon somebody. Like he
Yeah, sure,
can,
I guess.
he's,
But yeah,
I mean, it's just to show the merit of the, like, how badass the Kingpin actually is, and how everybody's of, like, the copper, like, was arresting somebody. He walked in, everybody just ran. I mean, I
yeah, yeah,
know because that's his, that's what he basically has, a everybody, every copper in his pocket. I understand that, but just like
right.
seeing that in the way they were doing it, as I say, I don't know who, like, directors. I didn't really look closely who's director of the show, but yeah, just
Yeah, it was no names
not
that I
cohesive
recognized
enough.
because we always watch the credits, but I didn't recognize the names.
So we're gonna
Um,
probably watch it
more
if we don't have anything else to watch, basically.
more importantly, Gore Vidal's been watching Northern Exposure on Amazon, which is very exciting to me. I loved Northern Exposure. I was watching that when it was coming out. It's one of my
Wait,
favorite shows for quite a
now
while.
because I'm being, I don't know what's Northern Exposure because it doesn't recollect the
Is this
name.
doctor that basically goes up to a northern Canadian town
Uh
to
huh.
he's supposed to fulfill a contract there,
Uh huh.
and be their doctor, and kind of, it's country mouse city mouse kind of thing, right? Like the guy from the big city coming to
Uh
the
huh.
country and
Yeah, yeah,
meeting the
yeah.
weird characters that are there, but it develops more. It was a great show. I loved Northern
Is it
Exposure
like
a hell of a lot.
okay? I'm gonna
It's
just
older. I don't know, 90s, I'm guessing, but I don't
no.
remember exactly when. Maggie, yeah, Maggie's amazing. Janine Turner is my ex-wife who doesn't know she is. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's a
yeah,
bit
it's it's really great stuff, man. So many good characters in that show.
cool. Maybe that's what I didn't understand because maybe I haven't. I need to see it. But they, like, it's the same thing, but I hear the name of something and I
It might
haven't
not have hit.
recollect.
It might not have hit
Yeah,
anywhere else, but here, that's the thing too, right? Like it might
yeah,
not have made an impact anywhere else. So
yeah.
I'm a little surprised that it's on Amazon. To be honest, I didn't know it had that much of a following to have it revived. You know what I mean? So
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
yeah.
I watched once again the same, like, DC's a new animated movie.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
which
the
one?
the oh my god, the oh, what is it called now, Rasa? Those infinite earths colliding and they destroying because there's this one enemy, the wave comes in.
Crisis on Infinite Earths or
There you
whatever.
go. Thank you very much. That wasn't bad.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was trying to kind of basically get that, but and I
yeah.
really enjoyed it. I liked
Ah,
the way, and I always enjoyed, and I love, actually, to be honest, the DC animated stuff. But they really keep on doing the same shit, to be honest. They have
yeah,
this Flash story, which is absolutely fantastic. If you ever read it, or if you haven't read it, I recommend you do that in comic format. If you can, of course, there's plenty of collected editions and reprint of reprint of reprint.
yeah. Right.
And it's a really good, interesting, intriguing story because of the Flash and his abilities and how he gained those and stuff like that. Blah blah blah. He can go through, and how confusing is to collect every single Earth. And if you don't know DC New Universe, you realize how many Earths there is, how many. Because I was always confused, like, the characters you
Yeah, it's
start
fucking
collecting, and you,
confusing.
yeah, and he's like, well, it's not from the same Earth. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
she is a
yeah,
version of that, but in a different. Oh, it's like you were, and like the same thing with Marvel. When you start to get
yeah,
to open the beast, like you realize how many
yeah,
616 universe is this, the ones you have, and you're like, okay, so what's the difference between, and like that thing, but. That's the Christ on Infinite Earth is really fantastic little story they have created it. And they were doing it first part, which is 1 hour and something, 1 hour and 30 minutes, the first part of. And honestly, I was
okay, yeah.
thinking, okay, you're gonna finish it, but they just stopped because
Uh,
I liked everything apart, or they were animated a bit too simplified now. DC
Yeah,
used to be a bit more like overworked, but really
yeah,
good looking. Everything, but everything is nice. It's just you feel like it's definitely not by hand. Everything's very computerized, all that stuff.
yeah. It
But
felt
it's
like that
really
for a
well.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, but the actors' voices are different because, of course, the new generations and stuff. Hello,
Mm.
Mr. Damien. So I really loved it,
Hello.
and everybody's like, okay, it's a good one, but it's like you've seen it before. It's like the same with the Batman stuff.
Yeah, right.
You have them, but what DC is really good at is those movies. Um, okay.
No, this was a lighter and more accessible Twin Peaks. Last night I saw the first appearance of Adam the Grumpy Chef. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now I want to watch this. Keep on putting those lines, which intrigues me enough. Anyway, so
Yeah,
I
it's
watched
good.
that, and if you haven't watched it, really good time spending. Just to watch. It's very soothing. I watched that movie and I was like, "Oh, that's really like," and I started to liking. Like I like DC universe in total. I like all of the characters.
Mhm.
I like they had all of them, like all slew whatever they created. So it's nice to kind of like, oh, I know him and I know her, like a kind of that kind of part of it now. Hello, Paolo.
Hello, Paulo Costa.
So yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's just
I've
only
always I've always
first
loved
part
the
though.
animated stuff too. They always did
Yeah.
really good with their movies and stuff.
Hmm.
I just lost interest after a while because of the animation thing. It just got a little too computer, and then there was stories that they were doing that I wasn't as interested on. But
Yeah.
early days, you and I were always up to speed on every single one that came out. Early days, it was
Hmm.
kind of an event when those movies came out.
I think
It's
they
good to see
were.
they're still doing them. They must be paying off. That's good that they're still going.
I think this one is good one. That's one of the best.
Mm,
The lines they chose to use, the Flash's. So the Flash's voice character is I think from White Collar, a TV show. If you have a clue, I think he was penned to be a new, like it also DC universe character in the movie realm. But now they're saying that actually it's completely broken DC universe when it comes to movies as well, because even the
mhm.
Aquaman, which I have not seen yet, nor I am actually kind of even keen to watch
Yeah,
it, to
it
be
looks
honest.
horrible. Yeah.
I think they saying it's already horrible and it's not even worth your time to spend. So in
Mhm.
that sense, kind of like I knew that the strength is in animated, but I think they need to kind of expand it a bit more, show those stories a bit more to the people who hasn't read it, because that's basically I was like, oh, I want to read more Flash stories after watching that. Basically, what
Uh-huh.
it just gives you that, because he's there with he keeps on jumping from one universe to another one, and he's keep on recollecting his past, future, and whatever. But the way they do it is kind of like he's flashing, so he doesn't know where he's at the moment until he gets slowly. His brain basically keeps up with him, and he
Mm,
realizes who he's talking to. When Batman sees like a daughter of other Batman, he doesn't know that she's there or like ever existed, and he has the surprise of it. So it's kind of just intriguing. The more
mhm.
intriguing part is who they chose as a voice actors. Stana Katic, which I don't remember how I remember all these names now, but she is the one who I always loved. She's from what's the series called? Oh, now I'm blanking. She's like used to be detective shows, quite popular with the Firefly guy. Oh, her
Oh,
name.
Castle.
Yeah. So she's from there. So she's the voice of Wonder
Oh,
Woman.
yeah,
Fantastic.
interesting.
She can do accents because she's not from America, so she's a European, but she has really
Right.
good American accent. Plus, she if you wanted to speak like an Amazonian, not forced accent, okay? She's like naturally pronounced, and she's like has a really strong voice, so it really
Mm,
suits the Wonder Woman's character. I'm not sure whose Batman is, to be honest. I couldn't like I didn't look up the days and the names of them, but some of them were like really cool.
mhm,
Yeah, and Iris, of course, they use the African American, as an Iris, which is great. I think that's fine. Then it doesn't
mhm.
have to be a white girl everywhere, and it just those moments between two felt really nice. So the voice actors were doing really well. So kind
Yeah,
of
cool.
thing. They just tick the right boxes in the right spaces for me when I was watching it, and it just made me nostalgic, and I kind of wanted to go back to basically I want to read more the DC universe, to be honest, sometimes, but I always like it's the same with Marvel these days. I'm really confused. I'm not understanding where they are taking anything. I heard that continuation doesn't exist anymore. Like everybody for each other, but then they create this event, and suddenly everything
Mm.
happens with everybody, and you're like, oh, does it matter really or doesn't? So
Yeah, right. Yeah.
anyway, so I
Yeah,
watched
cool.
that
Maybe I'll
one.
check it out.
It's a basically good family spending time, to be honest,
Yeah,
watching
right.
something, like nothing overcomplicated, very easy watching, to be honest.
The last one I saw was that Justice League Dark, and I really enjoyed that one actually.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
that one was
surprised at
one
how
of
much I
the
liked it.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was one of my favorites. House of was it House of Secrets one, the last one?
Right. House. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's like 40. That wasn't even an hour, and it was one of the
Hmm.
best ones they created because of the
Yeah,
I guess
because of those little
Constantine.
short stories, and yeah,
Hmm.
that was pretty fun.
Hmm.
Should we talk
Comics.
what we read?
Hmm.
What do you want to
Shall I
start with?
start? Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, give her.
Okay. So I'm continue doing the fables, which is a very good
Oh,
sign.
okay. Fables. Yeah. Okay.
I have two issue story lines so far, which I read. I don't want it to go completely like crazy if I don't. No, I don't want to push myself just because. So a fables number. I have
Yeah,
read
there's no
some.
rush at this point, right? Since it's all
Yeah,
out and everything, right? So yeah.
yeah. Well, actually, 162 is the last issue DC will produce for fables. So it's going to be
Okay.
the last one, I think, of the issue. Anyway, so this new story I'm reading is number issue 12 and number 13, so only two issues to read. And it's the story of Sharp Operation, two-parter. It's a different artist. So Bill Willingham is the writer, and Len Medina Lan, Lan. So Lane Lan, how you pronounce it. Medina is the writer. I mean the artist, and you can see kind of straight away there's a different artist, but still has really. I really like the way they choose the 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 artist as well, because the panel seems to be in the same vein as well. So it comes to a story where basically Bigby gets been to talk to a human, a reporter, and he is basically decided to go to him and have a conversation. This crazy eyed guy comes to talk to him and expose basically fables. He thinks he knows the storyline. So as people are not aware of the fables are in New York, especially the human looking people. They have this like little area of New York where they basically owned it for hundreds of years because we don't age. And this reporter comes to Bigby to tell him, I know your story. I'm going to expose you. You can't hide away anymore. I just want you to confront you, to tell you that this is going to happen and you can't do anything to me because I know when you're going to attack me and stuff. And starts telling him, but I know you are vampires and stuff like that. So he starts laughing and he was like, oh, are you crazy? And he's like basically starting to tell us stories like, you can't come, I have a protection, I safeguarded. And basically just because of him talking to him, he had this secret meeting with the folks inside. So Bluebeard, the Jack, this other characters, and of course I'm blanking while I'm talking to you guys, but basically had the meeting to understand what to do with this human, how to contain the storyline, because no matter what it is, they don't want exposure in if it's true or not, but they still don't need an exposure because they have kept the secret for so many times, and anybody who speaks aloud can be like harmful to them in the future. So they have this a plan in place where Bigby actually have a solution, but of course Jack and Bluebeard has other kind of ideas or a secondary solution to the problem, and they were still going with Bigby's plan. So the the plan is to use that, I forgot her name now, a princess who is basically pricks her finger and she falls asleep. And when she does that, the whole building surrounding her will be the people and area basically starts to fall asleep. So what they do, they insert her into the building where the reporter is living, and she pricks herself, and everybody falls. Cinderella. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, there you go. Not so. If you know your stories, you should know. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
blanking
yeah.
because I'm telling on the
Sleeping
screen.
Beauty,
So
Snow White. Don't they all
yeah,
prick their finger and fall
all
asleep? Isn't
those.
that like all of the
Yeah,
things till some man comes along to save them?
yeah. So there you go. She pricks her finger, and of course, the first thing she does is fall asleep, and basically, Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, and basically
My
everybody
wife
just
sometimes gets
completely
a prick in her
passes
finger.
away. Yeah. So there you go. Everybody's asleep. Now the crew who's going back in the building have to wait, because the consequences of that is that if they do it too early, they fall asleep as well. So that's not no good, because then when they woke up and they found themselves somewhere they're not supposed to be, it's not a good story. Um and yeah, so they basically wait. Jack is absolutely impatient. So come, when you're going to do this? And babies keep on telling, come on, calm down, let's just wait for it. And we have this like prolonged conversation. And also the another thing which is happens while she pricks herself and falls asleep, there's this thorn tree, basically, or bush, basically grows absolutely to no end as well, surrounding the whole building. So they had to contain that as well. And then of course the second issue is then finding the reporter on the best scene,
Huh.
basically finding a reporter on the loo. So while they were doing that, he was actually doing his own business. So this is a very good, actually, honestly, for a first scene. So they look at this place, start to basically look for all the evidence the guy has acquired, and they have a problem because like in that time already, the new he was able to put all the information to the cloud, to computer systems, like the storage solutions, via computer. And they weren't understanding if they will be able to completely get rid of that problem, because they weren't able to access it. Even they could acquire Jack's solution, because he's able to use computers quite well. Also, in the background, while this happening, Bigby having conversation with Bluebird, where he makes him cry. And the crying moment happens because he's this badass guy. You would think that he's invincible, and he starts telling Bigby how you're not having enough jobs, because the secondary solution for them is to actually basically shoot the guy dead, and they leave him behind, and that's it. Solution is over. But they didn't want to leave. Bigby didn't want to leave any breadcrumbs and also lose life for no reason. And then what they did, which was actually quite clever solution, and it explains that later, which would be quite a spoilers, which was very fantastic. To be honest, I didn't know how they're gonna deal with situations. I found that maybe they're gonna kill him, they're gonna maybe capture him, put him in somewhere high in the castle, and forget about him. But the solution was to basically dirty his reputation. And also another problem they start having is that she needs to be awakened. And now they don't, and the only way to wake her up is to have somebody who absolutely loves her to kiss her, and that's how she's gonna wake up. But the Prince Charming, which I know his name, but Prince Charming, they split up after millennia, because living with somebody for millennia is not really easy, because you find all the bad things, or you get bored of each other. So he's kissing her and nothing happens. She's not waking up. And of course they have this kind of a character, which I'm not sure of him that much yet. This guy, apparently, he's like inbred kind of character they have,
Okay.
and he's absolutely in love with her. So he kisses her, and of course she wakes up, and everybody's disgusted by him, because he's kind of like the guy who isn't. And look at the build up, the reporter's
Troll.
mass. I mean, come on, the guy was really exercising, like he has
Yeah, right.
like you could just basically take out Big no time, because he's kind of shorty guy. But the solution was to find the way how to fill his life, and they have one of the members of a Fables. He's like, looks like a 6-year-old, but he actually quite old man in it. So he made a video of professing that he's been basically with this kid, like pedophilia and stuff like that. So that's a
Mm.
solution. There's another consequences what happens to this character, but you can read it and find out for yourself. Really intriguing storyline. And I really liked it. The art as well. It's very
Yeah,
clean
it looks really
also.
nice.
And I seeing this kind of like, oh my god, I would love to have bust of
Mm,
Sandman.
hmm.
But yeah, of course. Yeah, Prince Charming. Yeah, he's a bit of a sleazebag, to be honest. The way he's been
Right.
portrayed in this couple of issues is like he just needs, like. But then what? So he didn't realize. So after split up for like I don't know 100 years, or they didn't get along for like 50 years or something. He found out that she's extremely rich because she has this power of being lucky. So no matter which way it happens, she like sneezes in the wrong way, and the money just falls down for her, or she wins the
Uh-huh.
lottery. So he found out after a while when they basically try to wake up, he's seeing all this like gold surrounding her, basically gold china. Everything is just like pearls, something, whatever, just absolutely rich to a point of not knowing what to do with it. So he's basically start to be, oh, let's be friends again, kind of charms himself back into her life and becomes
Yep.
a roommate, because he has to up his, like, because he's like as Prince Charming, he needs to have his reputation and live in the digs where Prince Charming only should be living at, so kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So a bit of a sleaze, but anyway,
Yeah.
very good storyline.
Yeah, it sounds good.
And I am continuously now decided that I'm gonna be drawing stuff. But
Yes.
I didn't drew this story, but I drew previous Fable story.
Oh, nice.
That pig on a stick.
Is that a little bit of a bigger book than you had last year?
Yeah, definitely. Much
Yeah.
more, much
That's
bigger,
awesome. Oh
much
man, I'm so
bigger.
glad you're keeping that up this year. That's great.
Oh yeah. So the last weeks, if you haven't seen my,
Hey.
so this is the Night Fever
Yeah.
by Brubaker and Sean Phillips. The
Yeah.
punch thingy, I really like the shadow part and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. So I decided to do that. Then of course I had Kaya
Oh, sweet.
element. Kind of, I'm choosing very difficult see like a, the way they are portrayed, because it's more
Yep.
challenging, and I don't know why I'm doing that to myself. This scene, because of
That's
the
good though.
blood and everything, worked, and the crying, it worked
Yeah,
at the
right.
end of the day. But the way I'm, like I don't have any pencils to work on. Also, the Friday from last week,
Oh, dude, that's so good. Yeah, cool.
Marcus Martin, and
Shit,
then
yeah. I love that one.
Hellboy's Richard Corbin part. We like the shadow part.
Oh, nice.
So
Wow.
I didn't creepy.
Wow. Moody art this few weeks here. That's killer.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I was really into it. I guess the paper. Like it's always very difficult to start. And I
Yeah.
saw you. Like you kind of were like showing me you were starting doing that. Your 500 challenge, and I was like,
Yep.
okay, I want to do it. And I was very like, after that chat, I was like really wanted to draw. So
Yep.
I haven't drawn what I've read it this time, but I'm keeping my notes more clearly. Like now I'm making sure that everything
Oh,
is
right.
written, which number it is. Or actually now
That's a good
realized
idea.
that I need to do single issues if I'm reading how many numbers and why, because then I actually know what I've read, rather than me
Yep.
saying, oh, fables I read, like kind of thing. I need to start to understand where things kind of, and the numbering. So
Yeah, that's a good
it's
idea.
more accurate, rather, because I was reading I do read quite a lot of graphic novels, but the storylines, even of the Hellboy story as well, because
Right.
of the Corvin, I was like, let's challenge myself. But I
Yeah,
haven't
honestly, and at the end of the year, it's super fun flipping through it again, right? And revisiting all that. So,
well, yeah, if I have moment of inspiration to actually put the screen to, but I'm thinking to do the last year's, whatever, how many pictures I have drawn, to basically make a video as a kind of record to see where I
mhm.
am at. Because
Yeah,
what
cool.
my challenge is not to use a pencil. I don't know, maybe that's why I'm making a bit too much for me, and I putting myself up to. But I really like using fountain pen, so I have this Kavico fountain pen, and I find it
Hmm.
extremely interesting and intriguing because it's very stiff. So your lines are quite stiff. So you have to kind of use your eye detail quite a lot. Sometimes feels like, especially if I'm using those moving characters in the panels I'm choosing. If
Hmm.
I do a bit wonky, it doesn't work out, but seems to be my eye kind of works. But I need to basically warm up myself. So I'm challenging myself because, if you don't challenge, what's the point of doing that? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still
Right.
want to continue doing it. So it's good. Like it's a good, in this book. Oh, I put the sticker, of course, like you. I had
Awesome.
to.
Yeah, that's great. Got to
Yeah.
get Fun
So
Girl on
yeah. So this is like a nice kind of like a almost album type of looking book.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
It will be definitely quite good memories, like to see how far. And I've drawn quite a few things, and I never thought that, I've been doing it for a while, but I had this gap since my son's birth. I haven't done quite
Hmm.
long, and I'm rusty. Like you cannot believe how rusty can you get when you
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
completely stop, and you're like,
Right.
I can't do this. I was trying to do oil paints, and oh my god, no way, it's just too much. It's like your head is not working because oils is a very different medium to go for. So the writing pen, oh, it's a Kawika Sport. It's a very nicely writing pen. I absolutely love it. It's a small one you can carry everywhere, and
Mm.
it's a fantastic little a medium to. I mean, the fountain pen. I like fountain pens. I write better with fountain pen as well. By the
Hmm.
way, I don't know if you. I mean, I know it used to be like taught for us, like you have to. My school education, fountain pen was the number one thing, not the
Yeah.
ballpoint pen. And I remember when we went to the ballpoint pen without being fountain pens anymore, and my writing went to absolutely no land. Nobody can understand. I have this like journal sometimes I write into when my head is goes a little bit cuckoo. So you write down something your mind, and it actually clears up a little bit of a ghosts
Hmm.
inside, because
Yeah.
I've been depressed is one of the solutions kind of thing to
Get
work
it
out
out. Yeah.
some of, yeah, exactly. And sometimes can't understand what the hell I was writing down there. So when I use fountain pen, I can read my writing. So which is
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why. So I when I acquired this one, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It's a very good. Kaviko
Yeah.
is
Cool.
one of the good ones. It has a smooth writing point, which is very helps to draw as well. So
Yeah.
you need that smoothness. Otherwise, when you fight with the paper, it's not something I like because the noise is kind of scratchy. So
Yeah.
it kind
Right.
of
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
becomes a little bit, you start to concentrate rather on the noise than actually the
An
action you're
actual
doing. So
writing. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
Um. Let's check in here for a second.
Hmm.
Let's see what we got going on here.
Oh.
So this is it. It's,
Ah.
this is my childhood. So yeah, if
Wow.
anybody's ever curious, oh, let's hide this chat over here. What do I do? I guess we have a bit of a wind chill, a cold weather warning coming up
Oh. Oh.
for tonight and tomorrow. So keep up to speed with your Winnipeg weather during our
Oh
Sunday
my
chat.
goodness. Yeah.
Um,
Minus 22, man. Aye.
yeah, right now it's -22. Yeah, 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 it is what it is. This is our
Oof.
reality.
Okay.
Shall we?
Oh yeah, yeah. Go. Oh, you want to go for that straight away?
I
Okay,
I
go on.
do. Yeah, I do because it's fucking amazing. That's why.
Yeah. It's a nice
Holy,
cover.
holy shit! What an issue, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like issue 5 really hit a good mark for me. It did that little twist, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
one of our main characters taken down a different path, and then
Yeah.
this one kind of like takes all that and then ramps that up a bit.
Yeah.
So I think at this point we can do a tiny bit of spoilers from last issue because we need to talk about this book. So
But then,
just
but
fair
then,
warning to everybody that there may be things, if you're really into wanting to get this book, just fair warning, we may let something slip, so because
because
yeah.
this is just to point people out. This is the issue. We're gonna have to wait now until April to get another one. So they're taking a
Correct.
which kind of drove me a little bit angry, but not angry to a point where I'm kind of like screaming like a child on the floor. But it's gonna be, you're gonna have to like reread it because 3 months gap is quite a huge, don't you think? You tend to
I mean,
forget
yeah,
the
it's a
story.
gap. I mean, honestly, the way I feel about those gaps is I'd
You
rather
like the
them take
cover.
a gap so they're refreshed and then can
Yeah,
attack it again instead of
yeah,
running themselves ragged and then the story starts sucking, the art starts sucking. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
True.
I'd much rather a break. It doesn't bother me too much. I have a feeling that he's such a quality writer that I have a feeling it's
Oh,
going to I think it'll probably weave into it. So we should say like the basically the daughter in the at the end of the last issue gets kind of taken by this what turns out to be another pigeon type creature and getting her life force sucked out of her as kind of like this revenge to the revenge, you know, this sort of yeah, I guess revenge is a good word to the kind of the
or not.
hierarchy, you know, the revolution, I guess, you know what I mean, in some other terms, I suppose. But
Well, he's taking what he's well. He was supposed to be getting something or promised him something. So the
yeah,
gods who takes the life force of a storyline is
to
that
make
to
them
in order
useful.
to,
Yeah,
yes, basically to make them young again or renew themselves, basically become from six, well, let's say from 80 to come become 20 again. And he's the one who's basically a reaper, who's basically doing the deed for the gods to in order to get
yeah,
that elixir type of a thing from the life force of the sacrifices. So that's why it is called sacrifices. So there you go. We're going spoilers to the storyline. But what Rick Remender is doing is he's chopping the characters, he seems to be right, left, and center, and for us like who we are rooting for, who is the main character in here. And we and me and you basically were saying, okay, she's the one because she's a rebellious daughter.
yeah,
She has a different point of view than the gods.
yeah.
She thinks
She's the
that, you know,
she
she
represents maybe the new generation, which I
exactly
think is very
who's
important, you know.
yeah. So the new generation of gods are still, it comes into fruition at the end of the day. They're supposed to be taking over, but because of the gods are clinging on to the power, it seems to be.
They're
You know,
cowards.
we don't really know how the main character would go for it. But then we have the scene where she goes, basically sits down, and this huge needle goes into her brain and takes away her ability to be what she is. So I thought she's a goner. But then, of course, Rick
Yeah, I thought
Remender
she was
has
gonna be
something.
as well too.
So Rick Remender has other things, which are never spoiler alert to you guys. But she's sort of alive. Let's say this way. The way he ends this, the story, we won't spoil it. I guess is quite an intriguing part of it. But yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize that she's her mother. I mean, she does
Yeah,
look like her
yeah,
because I was thinking the mother's dead, so she's kind of the daughter's God's
right.
daughter. Because he has a new wife now, he has the chick who basically nobody likes. But then with those sides of the moon, which I absolutely loved the
I was
idea.
just gonna say, like,
Yeah, like
that is
yeah,
that is an amazing, amazing
oh,
panel. Like, I
yeah,
really like that, like representing kind of the phases of the moon, and
yeah,
there's
exactly,
basically multiples of her and stuff. I thought that was
yeah,
really, really well done, dude.
yeah.
And it's
So
the
it's
kind of book like right out of the gate,
yeah,
it's so it just kind of captures you with stuff like that. Like that's page one of issue
yeah,
number 6, you know, so you're kind of hit all the time
yeah,
with either story elements or just art
yeah,
elements that I think are really intriguing. And I think the biggest thing for me so far that I'm really liking about it is the whole I do like the kind of passing of the torch kind of idea. I do
mm-hmm.
like the idea of like the new generation wanting to kind of dismantle everything that the older generation did, and I
Mm.
also do like that in issue 6, that sort of ends up backfiring. It almost feels like sometimes as he's writing this, he hits a crucial spot and goes,
Yeah,
okay, so what would normally happen in a story like this? And then chooses the exact opposite. Because
yeah,
you have this, what it looks like maybe to be a budding relationship between these two
yeah,
characters now that have been kind of connected. And he
yeah.
completely subverts that and is like, no, fuck, no, because at first I'm like, ah, geez, this is going to turn into like a buddy cop kind of movie, and it's like, no, it's
No,
fucking
no,
not, you know,
no.
which is so kind of rewarding as a reader. Like when you're going to read genre stuff, I love reading stuff that fits in a niche and in a genre. I love that kind of thing for sure, I do. But I
Mhm.
also really love when somebody goes, fuck all that, we're gonna go this way instead, and we're gonna play around with it. So I'm super curious. Like it's
Yeah,
also hard not to think of kind of just the current state of the world when you're reading stories like this, and this idea of power and how that gets passed down, and people not
Mm-hmm.
wanting to relinquish their power. Obviously, I feel like there's a lot of subtext as to what's happening in the States with their government. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking gerontocracy. Is that the word? It's all these geriatric people in power
Yeah,
that just aren't
yeah,
letting go. So you get
yeah,
some
yeah.
of that in this book as well too. So I mean, not just the United States. I shouldn't single them out, but it's kind of the one that maybe we all
Well,
know maybe the most about,
yeah.
whether we want to or not.
Yeah, so this is the one of the panels is least likely to see a bit of a spoilers, to be honest. So this is the consequences of they need to be in power still. So this is
Yeah,
all these three panels is basically while there's two
their
characters dropping
bodies.
down, which is absolutely fantastic. Um, the consequences, how many they need to be sacrificed in order for them to be able to still gaining the power. See, we want to cling on to. So yeah, it's kind of fantastic. And Max Fuyama, like always, he's absolutely nailing every single panel, and the
Yeah,
coloring, of course, and your Dave McCain work together with him. It seems to be like a team needs to stay together, and you never know what's going to happen next. Really like these
yeah,
characters now. So this like zombie
yeah.
kind of like characters, they are the
Yep.
ones who basically are chasing our main
Basically, the bounty hunters or
pigeon,
whatever. Or
one lonely survivor. So is he the
yeah,
one we're gonna follow through or not? We don't know, because his recommender is basically like we just mentioned earlier, keeping you on the tippy toes.
yeah,
Because the minute you start guessing how the story kind of will go for, you pick up an issue and it surprises you by it. So no matter whatever happens, nobody's there for you to clean on for a long period of time. It seems to be
right.
the gods are still the main basically entity, which we still nothing happened to
Yeah,
him
they're
yet.
the bad guys.
Yeah,
Is
basically they
how
are the
I'm
bad
reading it.
guys, but
They're
they
the bad
continue.
guys that need to be
Yeah, they
vanquished.
continue
Yeah,
being in power and they continue being okay. So
yeah,
far they're not even that much into picture. They are cause of things happening in the storyline. So 6 issues came out. Now it's going to be a gap. So April is the next one, seventh issue. So I guess it's going to come out with trade. So you guys, if you haven't picked up in single format, I think it would be great. I think to read in one whole chunk will
I think
be.
so. Yeah,
I mean, it's not going to be as surprising every single time every month, because you get like a kick of surprise, because recommenders always have had something up his sleeves with each issue, and you had to wait for a month, which was, I think it really reads well, this story, because the way he's writing it. So,
yeah,
and he's really knows what he's doing with this. So it's amazing. And I'm continuously, like always, so glad the recommender is part of my pool, because
yeah,
like
totally.
if he's keep on coming up with stuff like this, it's always gonna get my attention. So I'm
The
just,
other thing
don't want to wait.
in the letters, they're talking again. He
Yeah,
talks David Lynch and Twin Peaks
yeah,
specifically.
mm-hmm.
Somebody asked him a question about it, and one of the things that I think he does well, like where the kind of David Lynch comparison that ends up happening, not as much as maybe it used to, but it does get a little boring. But I would say that where it does kind of relate to him in
Mm-hmm.
his writing style for this one specifically is
Yeah,
this kind of ability to write this story. For
yeah,
sure, he's got himself an angle, but I do
yeah,
feel like it's one of those things that no matter who's reading it, you can
mm-hmm.
kind of put in your own subtext, and you can kind of pick out things like, to someone else reading this might be a very religious story, like if you have, maybe a heavy duty religious steeped background in your personal life, maybe you would read it more in that way. I'm more interested in politics and things, so I read it from a political side. And I think that's a really good ability for a writer to kind of have something that it doesn't meander. It's still pretty focused, but there's enough room there to kind of read what you want. And I think also, and that's where I would say that it's similar to Lynch's stuff, because Lynch has this ability he's got a story he's telling you and it means something to him for sure, but it's
Mm-hmm.
open world enough that you can kind of get something in it, or out of it rather, that wasn't necessarily intended by him, which is why he also famously doesn't like talking about his work. He doesn't like talking about what it is, because it doesn't matter what I think it means. It's what you think it means. So that's what he pulls off and sacrifices, I think, so well. It's just a really strong book, man. I'm really enjoying it. And again, like, to have something like this in comics, there's similar themes going on in Kaya. There's similar themes that went on in like Rogue One. It does feel, and again, there's always the conversation that's attached to those things, that it is these big corporations that are telling this story. So how kind of subversive is it? But
Mhm.
there does seem to be a little bit of kind of um, aggressive, maybe subtext to some of these stories, where it is this kind of frustration of current political systems and the
Mm.
urge for people to want to change things and participate, so it's
Yeah.
encouraging to see that kind of presented in more mainstream art and storytelling, because those ideas getting out there, I think, are really important. So it's yeah, it's cool to see it. And Sacrificers is goddamn good, man. Every issue
Mhm.
so far is kind of like 5 and 6 really upped it for me, where I was feeling a little hesitant on number 4, but
Yeah.
super glad I'm sticking with it because it's quality.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's gonna be more people needs to get exposed to the story, see how
Yeah.
what they feel about. But yeah, uh, next one. You still you want to go together, or shall we
No, go
just
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
the
I'm gonna run
same? That
upstairs and get something while you're chatting. Actually, I'll be right back.
okay? So I'm gonna talk about the turtles. It's
Ooh,
been the book of Road to 150. It's the mark of end of the Sophie. What's her name? Sophie Campbell's run. I think
it's a
it's gonna
cool
be that's.
cover.
Oh yeah, but the one thing I'll tell you is extremely confusing because they're going to the future and past now. It's very much of the realm of the future, a lot, the magical elements. My problem is that I'm only reading this title. I'm not going through every single whatever IDW is coming out with. I heard that the IDW signed the turtles back up. Apparently, they are staying with IDW. IW doesn't have that many titles left in the world. Lots of Sonic the Hedgehog, the My Little Pony, the Godzilla, the Star Trek. I think is and the Turtles are the group of books they're gonna continue publish because I think IW is still struggling quite a bit. um anyway, also then a new thing is that they're gonna start doing the back page or communicate with readers, like editorials note, which you don't see that often. I think Dark Horse is still doing that stuff. You have letters in your Imager comic books, but IDW never had it because only ads were first thing you see. But Jamie as Rich, editor in chief, is saying that you're gonna see more of this information in the end, insider's note for them. And talking about the turtles, so after the war, the turtles kind of split into groups of them, where they kind of trying to rediscover themselves because mutants is not niche anymore. The walls has been broken down, and we are going into that world with magic and consequences of kind of jumping or creating something, which is an entity called Armagon. And one of the turtles decides to do that, and apparently because of that, he is well, kind of his future self, kind of, or they get disturbed by it. Honestly, there's one of the issues of turtles. I'm kind of extremely confused by it because there's lots of things happening around it. Who's attacking? Why are they attacking? What's creation is happening? So this story wasn't my favorite of it. I'm not sure if I'm missing some storyline which they had branches of whatever they're coming out with. It's a lot of happening with Venus, and Venus is basically jumped from future, came into um, this day of turtles to basically say there's something happening. We need to start sorting it out. And one of the newer members of the turtles dojo gets involved in it. He's the future self. It's actually who's manipulating time, and that kind of part when comic books or anything gets involved in. I find it completely convoluted at the beginning until you basically know the gist of the storyline. And so far, they're trying to solve the issue, but they're not really doing much to it. They chasing. They also finding a future turtles. How so? He appears like this, very much Ronin type of the storylines. Like we have happening also. The like this last Ronin, which I'm not picking up. It's another Kevin Eastman, Tom Waltz storyline and the future thing. So I think what they are trying to do is basically something will kick off and will turn something Turtle Universe upside down or whatever, or we're going back to something. But this is getting to a point where like Leo is basically really old because they jumped in the future. He's telling to her that things changed. The universe doesn't look this anymore. A lot of turtles has turned from each other. We're not supporting each other because of the element of magic, which they gained because of the event book, which I have not read. The extra powers in order to defeat somebody they had to gain. So also the I really like the panels that they still true to the characters. You also know all the turtles and stuff like that. But these, like this picture here, once again, Venus is in different. Oh no, this is not Venus. This is there's another turtle which is like a younger one. They said this is the future of other characters, which I'm kind of confused by it. But as you can see, clearly see the turtles have completely aged, and and this is Raphael, whoever what he's trying to do, he's he's still do true to himself and kind of like proper weathered down, like everything is cracked and stuff like that, and from the all the fights he's been into. So it's intriguing, of course I'm going to pick it up because I'm very much invested in
Yeah, yeah.
120 issues in how many years that is, I don't know anymore. But yeah, it's just, as I say, when they start jumping the time tables and future back, cool, am I
Yeah.
reading the past, am I reading the future, are they in the future or are in the past, or is it kind of thing. So the way they attempt to tell the story is like, right, and you feel like there's something always missing,
Yeah, right.
especially when you read that kind of thing in the single format. So it's not the
Mhm.
strongest because of confusion, but hopefully because they always, it's extra. I still very entertained by it. So of course
Mhm.
I'm going to continue reading it. It's one of the things I never kind of cannot imagine not having.
Yeah,
I
right.
always panic because in December I didn't receive this issue. I think they came out. I don't know which part of December, but because I think they were resigning the contract. That's kind of they quieted down with turtles information. At least I've not seen that much, so I start panicking. I'm not going to see my comic. But then I get my package and the turtles is in my things. Like, oh, thank God. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like sacrifices. Maybe I'll be like in distress, but when the turtles is not there, I was like, oh my God, I missed an issue because I don't really want to.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
It's
kind of
super cool that they've managed to kind of keep them going, and it sounds like there's some pretty intriguing stories, and that
oh.
Ronin thing is more intriguing to me every week.
Mhm.
I'm really curious to maybe start digging into that too, and it also reminds me that I have a lot of turtles to catch up on now too, so I've got to
No, the
get back into
turtle.
that this year too.
This universe is still going very strong. Yes, it is
Yeah.
lots of characters. There's lots of happenings. It's easier, I presume, if it's collected. But then apparently people are starting to complain the way RW is producing the collected editions, how
Mm.
delayed it is. Sometimes people to like this issue. It came out. Usually in the collected editions, you have to wait at least half year, if not longer, in order to
Right.
actually get to this point. So there's because IW as a company, I don't think they are really strong at the moment. They only have, as I say, several titles they continuously keeping to them. I guess that's what makes money for them. The titles they have, Turtles always had made money. They're almost the same thing what DC has for Batman. The Turtles is IDW is basically cash cow,
Hmm.
because no matter what they release, they people will if you like you see, I continuously picking 120 issues and I'm kind of to think about like like, oh, I'm not gonna have another one next month. So it's like
Yeah.
part of my thing, like I have to have it, like it's just that I'm kind of proper addicted to the turtle books.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just enjoy my turtles. And actually, what was really happy, my son was watching his kids YouTube stuff, and he was watching kids dressing up as the turtles because they watched the new movie.
Uh-huh.
And it's just so nice because that means a new
It's awesome.
generation is growing up and they are
Yep.
really excited about being whatever, who they are. So I'm just, kind of like, oh, he's watching somebody actually pretending to be a turtle. It's just like makes me feel like, okay, I was like watching me cartoons, like completely mesmerized by the turtles and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
which
Yeah.
is really good. That means the
Yeah,
generation
it's
of,
cool.
because that movie definitely would grow
It's
somebody,
great.
somebody
It
gonna
was
get
good,
excited.
man. Like it was a
Exactly.
solid outing. Like I said, after we saw it, even my wife liked it, and she doesn't really care about that stuff. Like
Yeah,
it was a good movie, man. They did really good with it.
exactly. So very
Yeah.
nice. Oh,
Cool.
cool.
Um, so before I talk about the next book, I have some art that I want to show from a very, very famous
Mm.
local artist, incredibly famous. Some of
Mm.
you, he's been on my channel in the past. It's been a long time since he's been on my channel, but he used to go under the name Mr. Tom. And
Mhm.
so Mr. Tom has, or my son Jaden, as he's known, he's in this design program, and this
Oh
was one of the
wow.
final projects that he had,
Oh
which was
jeez.
which we loved. We saw it. He posted it on his Instagram feed, as he does a lot of his stuff, or not a lot, but he shares some stuff on there. And this one kind of got to both my wife and me, and we're like, Jay, you've got to pass that on to, is there any way we can have that original? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So it showed up this weekend, and we're super excited to get it framed. But it's really nice work, man. He did an amazing job on
Wow.
that. So a very, very famous local artist, one of a kind. It's one of a kind. Thank you, Andrew. Yes, we thought wow as well too. So we're gonna take it and get it properly framed and everything. Oh, hello, Rickard.
Mhm.
Nice.
I
Thank
know.
you. I'll pass it on to him. Thank you, fellas.
Yeah.
Um, so right after I read Sacrificers, I read Kaya, and
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't the best thing to read afterwards. It's good. There's no doubt about it. Still like it. It's a little unfair putting any book directly after Sacrificers, especially when it's such a strong issue. This was
Oh.
a fun issue. I wish it would give us a little bit more. It does feel like it's trying to culminate with what happened last issue, because last issue I
Mhm.
wasn't the biggest. It was probably the weakest one for me so far, number 13, just because it
Mhm.
really seemed to jump into an area and just throw stuff at you that's kind of almost like a bit of lazy storytelling, as opposed to taking us through. Here's a bunch of shit that we're going to briefly tell you about what happened. Maybe he plans to go back and revisit it. Who knows? But again, this one started getting a little intriguing when they meet this kind of revolutionary force within the town that's
Mhm.
basically down with the king, and the king appears to be pretty scared of him, where he's rerouting his kind of parade or whatever, right? So
Mhm.
um, they're set to go on this pirate ship, and the mission they have to do to get on this pirate ship is go and rescue this pirate's niece and bring her back, and then that way they'll get this free passage. So they're kind of on the trail, and then we get these banners coming from this revolutionary force here,
Yeah.
these renegades, and it's the little brother pictured there, so as kind of like the savior or whatever. So
The
um
golden one.
yeah, that's right, the golden one. The thing that, and again, the thing that we end up saying every time, and it still remains true every issue, is how just gorgeous every single page is. I was trying to look for an example of not only borderless, but it kind of, like, even some of these on this first page here, I really
Mhm.
like where there's not even a delineating kind of shape of color
Mhm.
or anything. Sometimes how these images can just kind of sit on the page. He's got such a gorgeous style with gorgeous coloring. I just hope that this picks up again a little bit, because it feels like we're
Yeah.
in a tiny bit of a lag, which I would still recommend the book, no doubt, but it does feel like we're in a tiny bit of a lag these past two issues. What did you think of this one?
I think it's a big story he's trying to tell us. I think
Yeah.
he's trying to give us a lot of information because I think he's more concentrating on the golden one than on Akaya now. I think golden one is the big storytelling part of this next arc. because he's been shown the banners. He has this
Mhm.
the way he was saying about his magic element when he now is afraid of using the magic because he's promised something to somebody. Because when
Mhm.
he has this visions happening to him. So when he panics, he seems to be goes back into those visions where he
Yeah.
is doesn't he's seeing premonitions to what maybe he will turn into, or what he's
What he
after
thinks are
him.
premonitions. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
so not sure if it's him who's becoming this horrible creature, or is it something that he, because of his child. Don't forget that he's like 6 or 7, isn't he, like some really
Yeah,
young.
something like that. Yeah,
So
he's young. Yeah.
juvenile brain is not knowing how to get all informations down, and now he's, because he is our storyteller.
Process things
So
in general. Yeah.
yeah, he's the one who tells us the story of Kaya, not Kaya herself telling a story. He's telling how his process of thinking. He's telling how much he lying to his own sister, how much he was, because she was saying to him when the one part when we were in trouble, she says to him, "Go use your magic and find the person we're looking for, because this is the next step for us to go move forward in these tasks, or this adventure we're going into." And he's completely hesitating, but he's not telling why, because she's saying, "So you really wanted to have that magic element, now you do have it, but you don't want to use it anymore, how come?" And he's not telling her because he's afraid of it, it seems to be. But those elements of that revolution part, which is intriguing enough, because they're all wearing that patch he's known for,
Yeah.
like, that one black eye, the
Yeah.
look of his. And he's like looking at it as an evidence. Somebody's like, after, kind of like, the golden one keep on, they say that part is really
Mhm.
intriguing enough. But as you say as well, because he has so much to tell about the king, about him, about his future and stuff, I think is condensed a lot in the several 2 issues he's doing. I don't know if
Mhm.
he didn't. I don't know how he decides to tell the whole arc. Maybe that's why he has too little of the issues to tell a storyline, and that's why he's compressing it so much. But what
Mhm.
is happening to us as the readers is that we're getting a lot of information, but we don't know where to grasp it in. Too many threads open, but none of them where we can follow through, because there's something else
Yeah. Right.
happening in the background.
Right.
So I think
And there's no
it,
there's no stakes going into it, right? Like there hasn't. I mean, there's very there's stakes in kind of the general arc, but
yeah,
even within an arc, there's just no stakes with like, okay, so it doesn't feel
yeah,
like there's a ticking clock. There's no ticking clock on the panel, that's like a
yeah,
countdown, so it feels, and
yeah,
I'm okay with an adventure. I'm okay with that kind of thing. Nothing wrong with
yeah,
that at all. But I just feel like there's so much kind of crucial elements missing to kind of
yeah.
get you invested in this particular adventure. It just, yeah. And I'm hoping it picks back up. I have faith in him because he's been solid so far.
When he turns into the bird and when he
Yeah.
goes into that trance mode, I was thinking somebody attacking the bird. Well,
Yeah,
him.
that's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you turn the page, which is a good part of the he's creating, like, when the panel, when you turn in pages, he goes
Yeah.
into this, and then when it comes darker, and you can see the difference is where his mind goes into, and
Yeah.
basically he doesn't know what's going on to him because somebody's chasing, and the way it looks like some witch or something, but it kind of looks like him as well. So I
Hmm.
think you realize that Wes Craig's still not fully fledged writer. He's still
Right.
writer art, or artist writer more than writer artist. And that's where we're seeing sometimes, or it feels like it, because like you say, if you have recommended the same month as Kaya, or the same week as Kaya, let's say this way, very difficult to, because Rick Remender has such a good way of dealing with the storyline and where to put the place characters, that
Hmm.
for him to see the person who's basically trying to get to that level, or is kind of reaching some sort of really good writing levels, it's visible. It's kind of, you have
Yeah.
one
Right.
example, and by looking that one, it's like, whoosh, not up to you. I think that's why I even said to you about this one. It felt the same way about the turtle book, because
Yeah.
I was reading Sacrifices, and it's like, oh my god, compared to Sacrifices, they really have a basic storyline going here,
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where I'm trying to come across the point. But so
Yeah.
far, I think it's very busy and very intriguing, and a lot
Very busy.
of artistry parts of for your eye to wander in as well. quite a busy panels as well. But it's a
Hmm.
fast pacing one, so it's not gonna make you bored. You're gonna question where he's gonna take the story into.
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
my feel for
Yeah.
Kaya. Let's just hope it's gonna slow down a little bit next issue and just kind of focus on one thing to tell us, and then go
Hmm.
for another one. Because when there's so many of them and none of them has cohesiveness to them, it becomes a little bit. Should we care? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. No, totally.
Mm. Especially I'm talking about from the single comic book format, like monthlies. I guess
Yeah.
in the whole storyline, it will probably all make sense. Everything, you know?
Yeah. In a trade, it'll be different for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. Shall I go and this is it my turn now
Yeah.
again?
No, carry on. Yeah. Carry on.
Are you reading the story?
Um, what is it?
Usagi, Snow and Ice.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get the latest issue though. Shit. I saw that on the shelf and I didn't grab it because I have it on my pull list at the other shop. I
Uh-huh.
should have grabbed it anyway. Damn it. Yeah. I
Well,
am
no, then
reading
you
though, and I'm loving
can.
it. Yeah.
Don't. I mean, if you have it in the pool, so it's fine. You want to get it, then you can read it. But this is we have what it was says in the cover is actually happens inside. So it's
Sweet
really, yeah. So we have confrontation between this Jin character, absolutely
showdown.
freaky. Yes, showdown between Usagi as Jimbo and him. And they, for the first time, I saw. I don't know if I've seen Usagi basically running, but he was basically running from him. So he knew it's a bad doubts. They had a confrontation previously. I don't remember if I even mentioned in this book to tell us so we don't get confused when they met, because Stan Sakai usually tells you which story they kind of met first and why he's going after it. But they proper go they few steps behind them in this couple of few pages. But it's as intriguing, and you always like they don't learn this band of group of bad guys he's put together to go after our Usagi and his cousin. Is that they talk and they don't and they keep on asking themselves, how can you hear us from so far behind? And what it does, when you confront him, he always kills you. So why do you do that? You're not learning. Well, they're cold.
Amen.
They are disoriented. They're tired. They've been wandering around. They're afraid of him
Every
to
every
know.
villain group needs stormtroopers. Every villain group needs some
Yeah,
cannon fodder, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a way of you to laugh a little bit in the past. But that's the beauty of Stan Sakai storytelling. You know, he still has that ability of you to like have those characters at the background, but you start to kind of like have fun with them as well, and also use them part of the storytelling, which is fantastic. But anyway, so he realizes that they basically on the cusp of meeting Usagi Ojimbo, and decides to run, which is kind of intriguing because usually he's confronting bad guys kind of full on, but he says to his cousin, this is really bad, we have to go away as far as we can. And they what end up stopping them is the ice lake or river, completely iced
Hmm.
up river. And they have this one ability, how they probably have an advantage, both Usagi and his cousin. And that's basically goes through a point of fighting scenes. I'm not going to say who's the winner and what's happening next, but a lot of ice crushing. I'm not going to spoil, I don't want to spoil it. A lot of ice crushing. And this is the last panels I show you. Lots ice crushing, and apparently the current underneath the ice has taken people and killing them. Usagi, well, that's the one thing I'll tell you. Usagi got into trouble. How he gets saved, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's as good as always. There's one more issue because there's things happening. We're not sure what will be after confrontation, if it's somebody dead or not. But yeah, it's one more issue after this, so I'm intrigued to see where they're going to take the storyline. But another thing I noticed as well, all the stories prior to that I was reading from IDW, it happens in here as well. It keeps mentioning it, so continuation is keeps going stronger with, even though it says 105, which is what Dark Horse usually do. But the issue actually is 273 of
Hmm.
Usagi Ojimbo. So yeah, it's really good as always. Very strong.
Yeah. Cool.
I always read Usagi at the last. because if I am
Nice
disappointed
light
at
one.
any moment or point, I know I'm gonna read my Usagi and I'm gonna be. It's a good week. It was a very
Yeah,
good read.
yeah, totally.
So it's like a safeguard. But yeah,
Yeah,
always very intriguing.
yeah, no, and it's
Financial.
been a lot of fun, that one. It's been pretty great.
Yeah.
Um, so I went to 204 Comics today.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the main reason I went is I was looking for, I had this True North book number 1, and I was looking for book number 2. One of the
Mm-hmm.
local kind of comic addict guys, he had a copy, and he dropped it off at 204 Comics and put it in my pull box for me. So the main reason I went down was to grab
Mm-hmm.
this. I haven't read the whole thing yet. I've just started reading it. But
What is it?
so True North, it's a compilation of Canadian artists, or mainly Canadian
Ah.
artists. There's some other artists in here as well too that did kind of like these fundraising books. There
Mm-hmm.
was a whole long period of time where books were getting stopped at the border and deemed pornographic, and um, comic shops were visited by local law enforcement, and kind of they were given tickets, I guess, or what's the word that I'm looking for? They were given kind of summons,
Mm-hmm.
customs. Oh, they were also getting customs warnings. They show an example of it in the book here as well too, that you're bringing in kind of, and it
Yeah,
says
yeah,
is
yeah.
comic books and catalogs.
Yeah.
So Dave Sim does so right off the bat we get a nice fold out Dave Sim cover, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Oh
amazing.
wow! Look at that.
So he's slayed the dragon that represents like cops and religion and politician and
Yeah.
knee-jerk feminists and parents, and then
Mm-hmm.
she's saying, what is she saying here? My hero, and she's got tattoos and I heart Air Cell Comics and all sorts of things, and Barry Blair. So and then it's just a compilation of a bunch of shorts,
Mm-hmm.
with a whole bunch of incredible artists, including a back cover by the one and only
Oh
Mobius.
my
So when I say
god.
mostly Canadians, it's not strictly Canadian. So my understanding of a lot of this stuff is, I don't know if this one is specifically the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, but I know there was a lot of books done where the money was going to that defense fund, so they could afford to get lawyers to represent comic shop owners, comic artists, etc., people who kind of applied for it. So some incredible stuff in here, like Carol Moisevich, art on this one here, written by Dennis Eichhorn. Um, and I mean, some of the stories directly relate to kind of censorship and the things that are going on. And then you have other ones like this Moisevich and Eichhorn story, where it's just a story, but it would be something considered kind of, beyond the pale, or perhaps pornographic, because it's about this guy having an affair with another woman on the
Mm-hmm.
evening, the night before his wedding day. So things like that. So what else did I see here? Sorry, pages are a little thick. So yeah, and it specifically relates to kind of the alternative comics that were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we also get, yeah, we get another story here. Creators aren't always told, right on the front page. Somebody telling a story about being part of a censorship like screening when it came to like movies, VHS movies, and it was this whole panel of people, and they ended up kind of stacking the deck against them by showing them clips, the most kind of offensive clips that they possibly could. So therefore, then you get people going, well, yeah, no, that is really disgusting. We do need to do something about that, when that's not representative of obviously movies in general. This is like a sub niche or whatever. So that was an interesting story to kind of talk about that, and how that power kind of works, and kind of how those decks are stacked, and he was one of the very few voices in this panel, out of 3 people. I think there was 3 of them that were very, the censorship board has way too much power as it is. There's no way in hell we agree with any of it. Of course, we get Chester Brown with an incredible little 2-pager here. That's just the guy has always been, a 3-pager, always been and always will be just an absolute legendary artist. So part 1 is him talking about circa 1973, when he had there were these plastic sheets that you could draw on, and it would
Uh-huh.
leave this black mark, and then you could peel it off and it would erase the image. So what he would do is he would
Oh yeah.
trace Wonder Woman comics and then not add the costume. So, and then masturbate to those images is what he talks about in here. So he's talking about, like, you know, how he was kind of using this tool and his just the ability to find something sexual in no matter what it is, you know. So and then it cuts to part 2, which is circa 2050, and it's these people talking about our robots, talking about the famous Canadian cartoonist. And
Yeah.
is he dead? I've heard that he's dead, and they're going up to visit Chester Brown. And of course, the big punchline is that, you know, they talk about back in his day, there was superhero comics, and somebody says, "What's superhero comics?" And they were awful, and then not, you know what I mean? They were just male power fantasies or whatever they talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
So they go in and they find Chester Brown dead, and he's got his penis out because he's been masturbating to pictures of Wonder Woman again. So that's kind of, you know, he's so clever, he's so funny. He can still make a bit of a point and then still be absolutely ridiculous about it. That I
Yeah.
think is just really fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
Sean Schofield makes an appearance in here, the Human Remains guy, the guy that I got some art
Mhm.
from recently. Just a
Mhm.
quick 2-pager,
Oh, that's
but
really
really nice
cool.
to see some more of his art. And it's the same writer from Human Remains as well, too. So really
Wow.
cool stuff there. Yeah. Seth, of course, is an appearance in here. You can't have
Uh-huh.
some Canadian comics without the holy trinity of Chester Brown, Seth, and Joe Matt is in here as well too. We also get some Denny Beauvais from Warlock 5 fame. There's a current guy, a newer guy called Sampler Man, and this really reminds me of Sampler Man stuff, where Sampler Man, he takes a lot of samples from old comics and then kind of makes collages out of them or tells different stories. So this is Danny Beauvais doing something that was very Sampler Man-ish way back then. We get kind of a little Nemo, pardon me, little Zemo in Censorland. And basically the cops confiscating comics and pretty much saying, hey, it's for your own good. And plus then we can distract from things like shooting people, you know, shooting black people, stuff like this. So it's this whole idea of get people riled up about something so their real crimes can go unnoticed. And that's as far as I've read, but we also get like Stephen Bissett, a whole bunch of great artists. And this is a real thick one too. There's a couple of big text pieces as well, which is nice.
Was there originally came out this one and this is just reprint, or is the same
No,
cover?
this
Because
is the original. Yeah, this is the original one.
so when
There's
was it
nothing here
published?
that says a year on it, though. I'm not 100% sure what year this is. Oh, here
Hmm.
it is. 1991 is the year on this one. 1991.
So this is not something brand new. Basically, I thought that you
No,
picked
no,
up something brand new.
no. This is a guy left
Oh,
it for
okay.
me in my pull box. He had it in his collection because I put a when I'm really looking for something, I usually put it on kind of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of for the
Mm-hmm.
Winnipeggers and just take a shot in the dark to see if anybody has a copy. It hasn't been easy to find number 2. It wasn't easy. Number 1, I see not all the time, but number 1 you do end up seeing out there. The other thing that I thought was really cool about this one too is the backup stuff. So there's a recommended reading list here. And this was interesting because this is a partial list of comics titles that have been detained at the Canadian border by Canada Customs officials and later
Mm-hmm.
released from the period of 1989 to 1991. And then they do another one where it's books that were prohibited from crossing the border. So it's kind of interesting just to see a list. It's not a lot of surprising things, like there's a whole bunch of Eros comics stuff listed here that, well, yeah, I can understand why those ones got maybe stopped. I don't agree with it, but I can understand they're pretty glaring. But then there's things like Crying Freeman, issue number 6, Fat Freddy's Cat, number 2, which in my, and again, Freak Brothers number 2, Graphique Musique from Mike Allred number 2, issue number 2 of that as well. So there's a few titles on there that just are so strange to me that those ones got stopped. Now it does say that this list on this side are ones that then later got released and allowed to enter the country, but it's so
Mhm.
strange that some of those would get stopped to begin with. And then there's a whole nice write-up on all of the creators with a little paragraph there, where you can see everybody that's involved, that goes on for a few pages. So really good. I'm really, even Mr. Todd McFarlane makes an appearance in here.
Mhm.
Kelly Jones on the inside back cover.
Oh, look at that, man.
And then, like I said, Mobius on the back. So I'm glad to kind of have this. I'm really looking forward to reading the rest. But so far, that Chester Brown one was one of the highlights. It's just really, really funny, like legitimately laugh out loud funny, that story.
So I found this on like that's why I asked you the question, because I found it on eBay this
Right.
issue specifically, and it was
Yep.
saying that it's 1991. I was like, I have like, because you didn't mention maybe the year, and I
Mm-hmm.
honestly thought that you picked up something new, and I was
Yeah,
wanting to
yeah,
see
yeah.
how much would it be here or if it's available. So yeah, I found one on eBay, that issue. So
Yep.
if take
What's the price on eBay?
for this one is £6.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, that ain't
Because
too bad.
number one is impossible, but this one issue seems to be is available
Mm,
for pickup. But number one issue, I don't see it at all. I've been looking while
right.
you were talking.
I'll keep my eyes open. If I find another issue one, I'll make sure I'll pick it up.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, nice.
Yeah.
Last one. Okay, so my last thing
Okay.
is I thought I'm no, I don't know what happened. I slept on it, I guess, on the issue prior to that. So Transformers. Remember
Oh
this?
yeah,
I'm
right.
actually reading. So number three seems to be, I forgot to even think about it, but then I saw number four and I was like, oh yeah, what about Transformers? So I picked them both. And wow, this one is like action, like full on. So Daniel Warren Johnson is like not stopping with this one. So continuously, I really like the way Decepticons calling the just like a splatter of the humans. Basically, there's like like a you know, like the fly who's buzzing around and you just want to squash it. Basically, that's the way they think about the humans. So the fight is continuous apparently from wherever it left off, where basically Decepticons are going to do whatever they need to do in order to survive. So they're looking for the power because they crash landed, they've been awakened like the Optimus Prime, and they don't have full power. They don't have energy. If they use too much of the energy, they will not be able to basically survive. And of course, because of Optimus Prime, you know, like he's the leader of the good guys, which what they called the bad guys, the Decepticons, and then what's
Um.
the no, I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. You guys probably know better than Transformers. For a person who hasn't read Transformers, I'm intrigued more and more now. I guess Daniel Warren Johnson just keeps the storyline quick, fast paced, but carry kind of things happening a
Autobots.
little bit. Autobots, there you go. Roll out. That's why.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So and then you have the kid's father comes in. He's like an army guy. He's starting to fight against everyone. Doesn't matter who is the bad guy or good guy, because they kind of don't know who is what yet, because only the kids found out about them, you know, like those Transformers, and they crashed in the mountain, you know, the spaceship. Anyway, so they kind of get back, and they were like followed by one of the Autobots, because they were thinking they, you know, like, because Decepticons are around the corner no matter which way they go. They want to make sure that they come home safely. But what happens is, because the dad is caused panicky, he's inviting all his friends, buddies who has a gun to basically fight no matter what, because he wants to protect his son. And instead of doing that, the rogue bullet actually managed to and there's scenes like this, and he's using the sound as this
Mhm.
as the scene as well, which is absolutely what graphically and stylistically what Daniel Warren Johnson is really good at, you know. So basically a rogue bullet gets to be hit by his son gets hit by a rogue bullet. That's what I basically was trying to say, and I want to show you. Nice, very nice scene, you know, like the thing happens, nothing behind. It's a very important panel, doof, and there's this bullet flying, and of course the blood is pouring through, and he's realizing what he done. So with all this, like mayhem, what's happening between everyone, our Optimus Prime loses his arm. So instead of his, like it's feel like he's defeated, he uses his arm as a weapon and starts to basically nailing the Decepticon with his arm and starts to basically bash him with that, and manages to basically kind of like make him run away from the scene. And he sees the boy who's got shot, like that first comic book he saw a deer as like a fragile creature, because he's basically realizing the world they crashed into, it how fragile everybody is. And yeah, it's full on action, and he's like, come, I'm damaged, he turns back into his truck, and he invites the dad to go into, because they about to go and save the kid's life, because he's doesn't matter whatever happens to his fellows, but he doesn't want the humans to be part of the consequences of it. So, and the issue number 4, it's continuously being as crazy and as fast paced as ever. And I really, as I say, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. There's not much to tell. There's lots of fighting. There's lots of finding that energy source. That's how the Transformers survives. And apparently Earth still continues, it has it, but they don't know how to um harness it properly, so they can use it to get more. Like Decepticons are trying to defeat, or kind of like a race who is going to be the first to waken up the army in order to defeat each other, and no matter who they sit on, which land they're sitting on, that will happen. But I stylistically, as I say, it's always absolutely fantastic how the scenes and panels Daniel Warren Johnson is trying to pick. So yeah, really cool, and a very intriguing story for a person who has only watched some of the cartoons. Maybe I've never been into Transformers. I never grew up with them that much. I watched the movies, of course, because why not? They were really seeing the high flying machines in an action movie is always good entertainment for me, especially when you don't have to use that much of your brain. When you want to relax and just like watch the screen moving really fast at that point. But so comic book is as well is serving really well. They are doing fantastically well, and the sheer size of them and the human in comparison. So you basically have a building talking to you. Well, the sheer size of the building talking to you. So it's very intriguing for a person who, as I say, not haven't had a Transformers comic. This is really cool. It's intriguing for me, and so far I want to be invested because of those two kids as well. Comes into the picture how who and what gonna have this to say. People who has read Transformers prior to that, apparently they saying he's going through the true colors to what the Transformers were supposed to be saying and being like. They're
Yeah,
using
cool.
the whole array of what recognizable parts of Transformers. As I say, I'm not really versed in the. I always wanted to pick up those older Marvel Transformers, but I never went
Mm.
for it. I always have something else before to pick it up. Like another one is Rom, as one of the toy lines as well, characters, comic book creators. I read an issue number 1, and I'm intrigued enough to wanted to basically was also thinking getting some more of that to read, but I never
Hmm.
went for it. Now apparently Omnibus is coming out of Rom,
Oh,
so
nice. Yeah.
there's another thing where people, if they don't have in single format, they can go for it. But yeah, Image is going strong there. I know they having Cobra Commander is the next one online to
Oh,
be
yeah.
in the
Right.
universe,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is they also have preview issues of that, how it's going to look.
Uh huh.
And of course, as always, it's going to be a bloody one as well, because
Nice.
it's treating human like it's a bag of blood instead of
Right.
you know
Like
um,
meat.
meat. Yeah, it's basically and it's crushed to no ends, like especially like the way because what Daniel Warren Johnson doing in Transformers is using Decepticons language, kind of humorous type of the way they see the humans, because they are
Mhm.
inferior to them, because the sheer size of the volume they, or the abilities they can do and damage they can give towards them, no matter which gun. Because what they so the guys who I showed you earlier, the group of men with shotguns and army, kind of basically they have guns to protect themselves, and they shooting them, and they, oh, it tickles, oh, don't shoot me, like kind of like pretending
Mhm.
to be like, no matter how what guns. So they had a bazooka and they shot, so that's the only time they kind of made sort of damage or just stumble them, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was interesting part. So it's really good. I mean, he's
Yeah.
really, you know that he's a fan for sure. He has lots of care and attention. His panels aren't. I mean, there's some panels kind of confusing right at the end. I don't know. I'll show it to you. I really don't know what that entails. This is the last page of the issue 4. What is that? Is it machine?
That's
Is
that
the
main
ship?
Decepticon guy, isn't it? That turns into a gun. Yeah, whatever the heck his name is.
Yeah.
Can't
Well, there you
remember his
go.
name, but yeah.
I was like confused to see which way do I look. Do I look this way?
Right, right.
Anyway,
Yeah, I
so
think
that's
he's
the
sort of
only thing.
leaning. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit too many, maybe too much shadows to portray the figure
Mm,
to me enough, or is it too crumbly for
mhm.
me to understand? But if I, because I'm not a, as I say, I'm not fully fledged
Yeah.
fan of Transformers, but so far
My
they
brother
have
was a
my,
huge my brother was a huge Transformers fan, so much so that I think that original Transformers movie, that first animated one,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that was like maybe one of, if not the first movie he actually went to see in a theater. It was maybe I'm exaggerating. My memory is probably exaggerating, but Megatron,
mega,
yeah, that's the name. He was a huge fan, and he had a bunch of the toys, like the original die-cast toys or whatever, which are now long gone. Which, of course, what are you going to do? You can't save everything, but
oh.
he was big time Transformers fan.
I always I remember the cartoon for, I think I've seen not, I've never followed cartoons, but I remember seeing several, and it was good enough. But I was so tunnel vision when it came to X-Men and Turtles that I really
Hmm.
wasn't concentrating on the other ones like that. So
Right. Yeah, he turned into a big gun. Yeah, now it's illegal to sell as a toy. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, those toys were heavy duty. Again, talking about like knock someone cold with one of those toys, tossing it across a room. Like those things were heavy duty. I was a
mm.
big fan of the Shockwave, who turned into a little ghetto blaster, and then he had these little animals that were tapes, so you could put these little cassette tapes in him,
Yeah.
take them out, and they would transform into the animals and stuff.
The
That was
one
one of my
thing I
favorites.
always wanted, so I didn't care about the Transformers whatsoever, but I also liked a lot of toy stuff that came out in that time, and I
Yeah,
always wanted a watch. I'm kind of obsessed with watches in generally, but they had a watch which actually transforms into Transformer, and you can put it back in the watch, and it's written on your. I've seen some probably YouTube videos
sweet.
showing that. That's kind of like, I don't know if it's real or not, but I remember
Ah,
how much, because I'm very much into a, like toys and watches were like another thing, like like all the Casios and all that stuff. I was like I always wanted to have one and blah blah blah, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
always
yeah.
love that part of electronic stuff. So when I saw you can actually transform it into a transform, it's just that in that sense we would say mimic, that really kind of drove my head like, oh yeah. But I remember it was all very pricey when I was starting to kind of get more cash into it.
Fuck
And
yeah,
then,
yeah,
or it's like, yeah, like it's just a gimmick. Why do you want it to,
yeah.
blah blah blah.
Right.
But it's just,
Soundwave. Thank you, Paulo. Soundwave, not
yeah,
Shockwave.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had a video game watch. I think I had Pac-Man on my watch when I was a kid. A little
Oh,
arcade game on my watch. I remember that one.
boy, I
Yeah.
love Tamagotchis, like absolutely obsessed by that.
Oh, you did? Hey.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Give me like, I used to have one, and I remember I was hiding it. I don't know why I was. I think I was hiding it from. I don't know. I don't think my sister, because we have 4 years gap, so my sister was
Yeah.
already past that kind of thing. But I used to have that. Oh, I remember I was hiding it because my sister was annoyed by the noise.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely, she's like, I'm gonna throw that through the window, like that. What
Yeah.
that was used to be that part. So yeah, so I think that's why I was hiding it. I remember that clearly. Yeah, so those kind of things were like really intriguing, and you seeing those now on the shelves. because they, you know, like it's a new wave, or like, oh, go back
Yeah,
into
they
that
still do
or
them. Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, so it was like kind of weird to see that, and I remember hearing it. It's like, fuck, that's really annoying sound. Anyway,
Later, Andrew. Yeah, we're
yeah.
winding down.
Well,
I've only got one more
yeah,
book to talk about too, so you
yeah.
won't miss much. Yeah,
Okay.
Lily has one, and that was the first thing we did was mute that fucking thing. I'm like, give me that thing. I am not listening to that shit going off behind my head for the rest of my life. It ain't happening. So the first thing we did was turn the sound off on it.
Yeah. So my
Yeah.
my son loves toys in generally. So no matter which toy, and he finds Transformer toys very intriguing because you can, of course, you know, like build from them. So we got some,
Mhm,
like we always, because they're quite pricey these days as well. I mean, like, I don't know, like I don't remember the price tag, but I always if I see something on sale, I usually get it because he likes Lego. So it's kind of principle the same. It's like boxy. You can, you twinkle and get something else out of it, like the car out of the human. So yeah, it's
mhm,
kind of intriguing in that sense. But I never bought like those like aligned ones, you know, like the ones you buy like like Star Wars, or you know, like those packaged ones.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I never buy those because it's too expensive. Because I know he's gonna break it. Because I remember there are a couple of them limbs just like somewhere else, not
Yeah.
next to, you know, like save the toys from a child. I mean, these days,
Yeah. Well,
I'm
it's better
trying.
to try to find that stuff loose in bins at like charity shops or something,
Yeah,
because then
that's
it's
my point.
they're
My
cheap.
I always buy some like little trinkets for him because in charity shops,
Mhm.
because I know I'm not gonna have to pay full price for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it
Yeah.
goes missing, who cares? If it gets busted, no big deal.
I still remember how Adam was talking about GI Joes and the glit in his eyes when he's talking about those toys, and how he's trying to basically recover those GI Joes and how
Yeah.
expensive they are. It's
Yeah.
so always so
And they're still out there.
funny.
I remember sending him and John DaCosta some
Yeah.
photos because there's a shop in town that I for some reason I decide I have to go in once a year, and I'm always like getting the hell out of there as quick as possible because it's
Yeah.
just insane. It's a
Yeah.
museum, but they had a bunch
Uh-huh.
of GI Joe stuff still in the packaging. So I remember taking some photos of it and sending it to them, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, guys, you got to come to Winnipeg. This is where all the GI Joe stock is." So yeah, apparently there were some good ones in there. I mean, we played with those things, but I don't have any attachment to that stuff.
Yeah.
I have the attachment to the firecrackers that we used to strap onto them. That's the we did,
Oh my God,
that was the most
the
fun
limbs are
part.
flying. Yes,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
because
then yeah, you got to be careful
because
because sometimes the fuse goes down. It happened to me once. The fuse was like this long. Had it in my hand to go and throw it into my friend's house. The fuse went and blew up in my fingers. And for like 3 days or 5 days, it felt like my fingers were constantly throbbing. And yeah, it was
oh
not very smart. Yeah.
oof. Yeah. Okay. So what next do you have?
Um, I got one more.
Oh, you do.
And where did I
Cool.
put it? Put it right here.
What is that? Oh,
Issue number
oh
3
yeah,
of
sickness.
Sickness. I sat finally and read it last night. Um, good. It's good. This is a dense book.
Uh-huh.
So that's the thing I'll say about this. That is definitely a struggle. Um,
Oof.
I'm intrigued by the story. There's
Yeah.
some stuff that's happening now. We're starting to get into again, like your Turtles book, there's a lot of jumping through time. There's a lot
Oh.
of narration from somebody in the future as they're investigating the past, but we're getting the visuals from the past. So they do a good job in kind of like putting the date on the pages if you notice it. It's not always crystal clear, so it does get a little, I'm used to it now. But again, we still don't really know what's going on. So I still feel like after 3 issues, I've still got way more questions than I think I should have at this point. I feel like
Mhm.
I should have at least a little semblance. And again, that could be on me. That could be on just the density and the length of time between the issues. I've really got to sit and read all 3 back to back. But when they're so dense like this, the thought of that is I'm a little apprehensive to do it.
Mhm.
Um, but I am curious about it. I am sticking with it. And I mean, then you get these kind of images that come up as this guy keeps hallucinating. He's getting visual and audio kind of hallucinations. One of these, like, there's a few of the characters in the time periods and the different time periods that are getting these. but kind of one of our main guys that we're focused on. He's kind of seeing them more and more, especially he's getting a lot of visual hallucinations. But there's such intriguing pages, man. Like, again, Jenna Cha is so goddamn good in this. Her art just really appeals to me in a big way. So there's cool stuff happening here, and there's a lot of stuff to chew on. I just feel that after 3 issues, I think I've got too many questions still.
Oh no!
So I'm gonna try to revisit it to see, but I just want more out of this book. And it just makes me apprehensive that they're talking 14 issues are going to be the total, where I hope the story doesn't get stretched out too much. I have faith in them because, again, it's only 3 issues in, so it's not like I'm jumping ship or anything. And that Black Stars Above had like lengthy storytelling pages where there was a lot of text, but I found those contributed to the story in a really good way, especially once you got to the end of the story. And then you do get these treats of like, look at this page here. Yeah, it's pretty great stuff. So part hallucination, part him just freaking out in real life and all of this stuff. So these kind of realities blurring. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's Sickness. And then we get our kind of final pages where someone's caught something from the water that's sort of this animal / human hybrid. Again, more of his hallucinations. But again, some of these things are told so well that you're sometimes unsure of, is it really not there, or what is this mix? But this guy's clearly suffering. He's clearly suffering. So yeah, I'm very interested in this. So this is Uncivilized Books from just across the border. But yeah, so Sickness number 3.
How is the scheduling? You were saying that the schedule was quite delayed. That's why you weren't
It's
confused.
long between issues. Even like I'm still waiting for issue number 4, and I've had this one number 3 for at least a month, probably more. You know what I mean? So, and then they're going to be doing these chunks. In that interview that I saw with them, I think they said they're going to do 4 issues, then take a break. I think they were going to do 4 issue chunks and then take breaks, if I'm remembering correctly. 4 or 5 issues, I don't remember exactly, but so that'll also be a thing. And where I think that if there's any book out there that takes breaks where it might hurt it, I think this is one that it might really hurt, because it's such dense storytelling that at length of time is going to be difficult to kind of impart succinctly like what happened and kind of keep you up to speed when you come back from that break. So I'm curious how they're going to handle it. This is one, as much as you have to support the singles for books like this, I feel, in order to get a collection, because they'll never finish it otherwise. This is one where it's like, honestly, I think the collection will read a lot better than the month to month or bi-monthly or whatever. That said, though, you should still, if you can and if you're interested, try to support the single issues for sure.
Yeah. It's as much as I don't have the biggest police in the world, but I still have like the turtles, like knowing whatever IW struggled, but blah blah blah. But they would have always find some places somewhere else because of the fame. But I think IW, if they lose that, basically they crash as a company. I think. Like the turtles were basically a foundation for the company to stay afloat, no matter which way you see it. And yeah, and some of the stuff, like you need those single issues for them to have collected. I don't think it's feasible for them to just go collected editions, which I don't know. You could ask Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, but they have the merits that people are going for them. You know what I mean? They have already chops.
I think they can financially do it, though. Like those creators, like I think it's also a bit of both, right? Like the company can't necessarily afford to do it, but also the creators, because now you're working for an entire year on a book without getting a paycheck, where the advance might be really, really minimal, if at all, from some of these publishers. And then you got to hope that the book is going to stick. Like Brubaker and Phillips, they have so much going on that I think they're probably in a much more comfortable position where that schedule works for them because they're financially secure. But I don't know if Nadler and Cha are like at that level. Who knows? I could be wrong. I could be judging in that. I apologize. But like, it just feels like it's a different level of creator, you know. So yeah.
Mm.
And
Oh,
also I
by the
think
way,
they just moved to Montreal from the West Coast as well. So that
uh-huh.
might also be why we're getting a delay.
Oh,
So I think that all of that kind of, you know, like real life seeps into things, right? That's the way that it goes.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's something that ends up happening. But yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes.
I watched the Maya Coldred interview, and I absolutely loved it. I every single minute of it.
Sorry, you watched whose interview?
Michael Allred.
Oh, Michael. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Beauty.
Oof,
Yeah.
proper intriguing part. It was smooth, and you wanted to listen more, and you're like, can you tell more? It's
Yeah.
because he has, like he said, he had that time where he saw a lot of creators. He befriended good people. This kind of thing.
Hmm.
He has the wife who is in the same business, which is intriguing enough. I didn't realize
Yeah.
how old he's been. He's
I didn't
60 some,
realize how old he was either. Yeah.
62.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus, really? You know, look, first of all, doesn't look it, which is great for
No.
him.
Yeah.
But he's that youth, that spirit, you know, like he's talking and very excited still. I mean, he always wanted the way he was talking about his childhood is fantastic. You know, that's what kind of people are basically were like a driving force for creating this medium or continues creating the medium. And I was
Hmm.
like, but after the interview, I was looking at to see his library editions, which Dark Horse was producing. But damn, that's quite a few of them, and they were pricey, like 70 quid a pop. In my
Oh wow.
so that's quite a lot
Yeah.
for me, you know, just to have all for, and it's like 4 or 5 or I
That's a
mean,
lot. Yeah.
I don't know how many Mad Men comic books he managed to release because I've never followed Mad Men whatsoever nor read. I mean, I know the
Yeah.
artwork, I know the
Yeah. That's
sign,
a lot.
yeah, but
Mhm.
yeah, I know Damien is. Well, I think Damien is who is really spoken a lot about him in generally. I think he, and I have some of his stuff. He was talking about that comic book, like when he started Vertigo, when he actually Eastman was paying him the money. I was like,
Mhm.
really? It's like
Mhm.
about when the page rate started it, and he wasn't like
Yeah.
realized that he actually go you do that, and it's such an intriguing part of the interview. Highly recommend to
Yeah.
anybody watch it. So really
Yeah,
good.
no, I really liked it as well too. It was a real solid one to watch, and it's
Yeah,
always great hearing about that time period, especially that pay stuff. I thought was really intriguing, where he just
yeah,
pulled out a number that is
yeah,
they're never gonna, and they agreed right away. He's like, "Holy shit, jackpot!" You know, and like Ed and Jim were saying, it's like, well, the other bonus is you actually delivered. You took the money and you actually delivered. Where there was
yeah.
creators that didn't, right? They took the money and then the projects never came out or whatever.
So
So
I didn't realize, or maybe lost interest. But when you was, do you know Tundra? So Tundra was owned by Eastman.
yeah, correct.
So,
Tundra was his company. Yeah, yeah,
oh, I didn't realize. Well, that's the thing. I didn't
yeah, yeah.
realize that. So I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, so it clicks now, you know, like because you gave like you introduced me basically to Chandra and generally
Yeah.
because you sent me those sketchbooks that he was
Yeah,
doing.
that's right.
So and then
Chief
he says
kid
about
or whatever.
Chandra, it's like, oh, really? So that's what where the Eastman money's gone, and then afterwards, that's why he couldn't keep it
That's right.
afloat because you can't just shovel the money right, left, and center and think is everything is
Mhm.
going to come out. Not everything panned out really well for him as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
yeah,
I think that's a, you know, that's commendable to him that he was being so generous with it, making all
yeah,
this money, even though he might not have been super smart with it at that time period, but it's
yeah,
very telling of his personality that he wants to kind of help kind of support these creators. It's just
yeah.
unfortunate that some of them took advantage of him, which is going to happen, which is also why got to be fucking careful, man. You know, not everybody has
Mm.
the same good intentions, right? So,
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But yeah, very, very good interview for sure. One of the
yeah.
good things. I mean, they didn't push their work too often, but they did
Mhm.
still like I had to skip it. Honestly, I do skip that shit. You
I
know, as
skip
much as
it all
I,
the time too. Yeah,
yeah, I was like, I know you're trying to support your own stuff, and I know what you're producing because I've seen it many times. But
yeah.
yeah, it was really good. One
But I
of
was
the
saying
best.
to my wife the other day about like even PBS, even public television, when they had
Yeah.
their fund drives, they didn't have their fund drives 365 days a year. They
Uh-huh.
did it for a short period of time, had their fund drive where they could get money in for their public television and stuff. And then the rest of the year it wasn't that. So it's kind of like I understand they're selling their stuff, but I do feel like you could take a break from it. You don't need to do it every single video, 2 or 3 times, you know, at the
Yeah,
beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Like, we know. And again, it's the idea of like, well, somebody might only watch one video. I fucking doubt that. If you're interested enough to go and find them, I'm sure you're going
yeah.
to be watching more than one video. So I do wish they'd kind of give it a bit of a rest, because it gets a little much. But honestly, I'm glad to see they're going back to more of their interviews, because I think over the past kind of year or so, year or two, or I guess, that
Hmm.
those I think have been some of their strongest videos. Those conversations and the variety of people they've had talks with has been really interesting, from like real mainstream guys to guys kind of working on the edges of the mainstream and otherwise. I think it's definitely a highlight for me watching their stuff. I love hearing people talk about that.
I really do like, especially those, like, already highly, well, he's been in the business for not one decade but several decades, like when they've seen a lots of things happening and changes throughout the time while they were working, and how he had to, what he was working, and how disappointed his dad was. That was intriguing,
Yeah,
like, why
right.
why would you do it? And then he lucked out that his wife was doing really good, so he actually was supported by his own dream. And then now, like, both of them are going, so it's kind of like from one success to another success, and honestly combined success now together. And she,
Yeah,
now renowned colorist, but of course working together, and the way they work together, and how he was telling how she's coloring and what they're using in order not to basically destroy the original page. She's copying it
right.
and then using, and then also the family members doing his, like the stamp, like, those screens, so he can actually brush it, where he's talking about the painting and stuff. That was really
Hmm.
cool. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed that a little bit of the world of the artist is really intriguing to see the process of work, and how they
Yeah,
found a
totally.
way to bypass the mundane, which is basically it is, like those
Yeah,
screen stuff, the background, what he's known for. And
yeah,
the
right.
and the Prisoner TV show, was it TV
Yeah.
show or the movie? And he was talking about
There was
that
it
town.
was a TV show. Yeah, it was a TV show, and then I think they did a movie as well too. But yeah.
Yeah, but he's talked about that town in Wales. So like, fuck,
Uh-huh.
I'm on this on this land that actually can go and visit, because I'm kind of
Yeah.
intrigued about the scenes where they take the things. So
Yeah.
I've not really discovered Wales that as much as I wanted to be honest. But
Have you
I
seen
was
the Prisoner TV show?
no, I want to go. I'm gonna start watching it now, just because I
Yeah.
like. I can see that, I actually can picture it, but I don't think I've ever, it's kind of past my time when
Yeah.
I was growing up to watch that kind of stuff. I think it's more like maybe my mom's more into that kind of like
Mm-hmm.
era. I mean, wasn't it like, when is it came out? Like early, what,
I
60s?
want to say like late 60s, early 70s
Yeah,
is what I want to
yeah,
say.
yeah,
My
so
brother
yeah.
was a big fan. I watched it as well, but I was more into the Avengers than I was the Prisoner, because
Okay,
we had some channels that would replay a bunch of British shows, and those two were
yeah.
the ones that we saw all the time. Prisoner and the Avengers were always on, but I loved Steed and Emma Peel. That was my show, man. I loved that show. It's
Okay, cool.
great.
So I definitely gonna have to, because I'm keep always looking for something like that, and it seems to be intriguing enough. Like, like, I mean, the old TV shows are still very good for me to watch. Like, I'm still
Hmm.
bloody, like, I always like go back to watch shows like, as I said, Murder She Wrote. I finished,
Hmm.
but which is very bad for me, because I don't have anything to fall back onto anymore,
Right.
kind of thing. So I'm looking for some stuff to watch sometimes, just to detective. It has to be detective, something, or like,
Yeah. Yeah.
or it has to be something like a crime drama or whatever, that's kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
I've been looking on that to watch. So
Cool. All right. Well,
okay.
another week of comics, and
Yeah,
this week I'll try to actually read them more instead of the last minute before we go live reading a couple of books to make sure I have something to talk about.
yeah,
It's been a
and
slow
I'll
start to the year, but hopefully we'll ramp up a little.
yeah, and then if my birthday, as I say, is on Saturday, so
Yep.
Sunday should be fine. If of course, if I
Sweet.
don't have time to read, I'll let you know, but it
Yeah, of
should be
course.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm enjoying this stuff anyway to do. I need to
Yeah.
go to library and find some more gems to read through.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
all right,
All right,
peoples.
everybody. Thanks very much for hanging out. The usual gang. Good to see you all, and we'll talk to you
Bye bye.
later.
Bye bye. Bye.